Well, if we're going to have plenty of time to schmooze afterwards and check out all the bike gear. There's some great bike gear here. So if folks want to sit down, we can get started with our Brattleboro Winter Biking Workshop. So I just wanted to welcome everybody. This is kind of like the second Brattleboro Winter Biking Workshop. The first one was about 3.5 years ago, and it was a lot of fun. Since then, I've just been busy. I've been in grad school, so I haven't been able to pull another one together. But now I have a friend to do it with. My friend Phil Brubaker and I put it together. My name is Dave Cohen, and you'll learn more about us as the evening progresses. So the question is like, why winter biking? And my grandmother, if she heard I was doing something like this, she would say, "You're Meshuggah," it's crazy. And you have to be a little Meshuggah maybe, but you also, it's a really wonderful thing. And for some people, it's about health. They want to stay healthy through the winter. For other people, and you'll see this in some of the videos, it's really financial. And especially in cities, it becomes a financial issue about owning a car, and also parking issues. Some people it's adventure. For me, I know it's part adventure. It's not even like I go out and do adventure rides. Just going to the co-op is a nice adventure during the winter, especially at night. It's really cool at night. And there are a lot of people, there's a growing population throughout the U.S. that want to lead car-free lifestyles, or at least car-reduced lifestyles. So for those people, that's a really important thing. And then there's a whole ecological part of this, that people are really starting to see some of the effects that we're having on this planet. We know about climate change. There are many other things that are associated with our transportation systems that we sometimes tend to ignore. And one of the things I always point out is just our soundscapes and our sound environment, how they're compromised by the car lifestyle. And then there's also nature deficit disorder, which is not an official, DSM, psychological profile of a pathology, but we're noticing this more and more that children and even adults are starting to retreat from the natural world and really feel that biking, especially even during the winter, is one of those great ways to reintegrate ourselves away from sheltering ourselves. And so, with climate change, I think many of us are also changing. And so we really feel like this is like a Vermont thing. I mean, can you imagine winter biking? It's, to me, moving here about 4 years ago from California, winter biking just seemed like, hey, that's really Vermont. But I noticed that there weren't many people doing it. And a friend of mine, Joe Heslin, went out one winter. He was riding his bike, and some guy, screamed out to him, saying something about, "Hey, that's really Vermont." This guy was in his big SUV. It turned out that Joe had just moved here, 2 weeks ago from somewhere else. But it is so Vermont in some ways, and that's the way we really want to promote this. It's about being independent, local. It's about being hardy and connected with the natural world. And for Phil and I, it's about thrill, joy, adventure, fun, challenging. It's a challenge, but we're also challenging the dominant paradigm. It's about mystery. It's about getting our bodies connected to the earth. So in this workshop, what we're going to do. No, I don't want to connect my body to the earth. Yeah, so you want to be connected to the snow. Yeah.
Not that route.
Yeah. So in this workshop, we're going to be covering a lot of the basics about clothing, about equipment, also about maintenance, how you maintain a bicycle, and also getting introduced to some of the winter biking communities that exist in other cities, particularly Minneapolis, Toronto, Chicago. Really interesting things happening there, so we'll tell you some of those tales along the way. So I'm going to get a video set up. Phil, do you want to turn out the lights and I can take care of the video?
I heard the director say we can't wrap the movie with
Sorry about that. We have an ad. We'll just pass by this ad. Don't look at it.
We're gonna get one of those.
Yeah.
Yes.
Winter, you live in a box, you get a little smaller box, you go to work, you get a little bit bigger box and go in your cubicle. And you live in boxes, and you get cabin fever. But out here, I'm just outside for 2 hours a day or more. It's just nice being outside. It's a beautiful morning, the frost on everything, and it's really crummy some days, but you get through it, and the next day it's fine.
I'm 58 years old, and I bicycle from Chicago and Lake to Eden Prairie every day. I actually bus it in the morning with my bike, so I don't get sweaty in my suit and stuff, and then I get to work, and then I ride home. So I take off my my work clothes and put on my exercise clothes. Since this is my first year of winter bicycling, I bought a new bicycle just for the purpose of winter bicycling. I bought a bicycle that is more of a hybrid quality, and it has studs on the tires. That's the big thing. So I don't know if you can see those or not, but they're little studs that help grip, and so you don't slip necessarily on the snow and the ice.
Yeah, her name's Princess. On Tuesdays, I take my bike on the train. But that's all. Yeah. And then sometimes friends. I put my bike in friends' cars, but I just like it's pretty scary and like it's kind of like terrifying and exhilarating. And then like the roads are smaller, and you have to like get out of the way of cars, and it's cold. And people are kind of mean sometimes. But gloves, tights, socks, shoes that are too big for me, and extra socks. I have like a face mask. Earmuffs, or like I wear headphones. I tried goggles, but they fog up, and you just try to go fast as you can without falling.
I commute every single day. I maybe opt out of 5 commutes a year, usually because I feel like crap, not because the weather is crappy. For me, driving in a car every day is just not an option from the perspective of both environmental costs, but also personal costs and health costs. So I ride every single day. I have a habit of pulling my child everywhere as well. And we'll do trailer rides down to about -3, -5. I stuff them in there with a blanket and everything, and we go everywhere. I think the biggest challenge is toe berg formation. And so I kind of have a little bit of a toe berg. We've been out for like 2 hours though, so. But on a 20-minute commute or a 30-minute commute, toe bergs aren't a problem.
Toe berg?
Toe berg. Iceberg, toe berg. Toe berg. Yeah.
Okay, so now to talk a bit more about layering and staying comfortable, Andrew Morrison from the West Hill Shop. Andrew has been riding in Vermont and Syracuse, New York in the winters. He's got quite a bit of experience with this, and he's hoping to bring more of a Nordic spirit of winter cycling to his daily life by commuting back and forth from the West Hill Shop where he works to his residence at the Putney School. So, Andrew, good way.
I'm just going to take a moment to drive some things up there. Multimedia.
I can feed you stuff.
Oh, good. So, we got some nice examples of people talking about the inclement weather and keeping themselves warm, keeping their bodies warm during winter cycling. And so, I wanted to talk a little bit about the various options in terms of keeping yourself warm while out there doing any sort of exercise, be it Nordic skiing, winter cycling, hiking, snowshoeing, anything like that. So to start out with, we talk about base layers at the shop, sort of your undergarments that are going to be close to your skin. You're helping to move perspiration away from your body, because being wet equals being cold, so we want to move perspiration away from our bodies, as well as providing a little bit of an insulatory value. So at the shop we carry 2 different base layers in our stock. We carry some base layers by Craft. They're very flexible, they fit a lot of folks, and they're very lightweight. I think people really like them. But we also carry some wool base layers by Ibex. And wool is a fantastic base layer material. Because it's a natural fiber, which I think appeals to some of the reasons we've been talking about that people choose to winter cycle in the first place. But wool can also hold 30% more moisture than a synthetic fiber can. So in terms of moving sweat away from your body, wool is excellent in that capacity. And my favorite property of wool is it doesn't stink when you wear it day after day after day after day. I take that base layer off, I stick it on the back of a kitchen chair, I put it back on in the morning, and I don't have to do the thing that we all do when we repeat our base layers. So it's become one of my favorite base layer pieces. So a base layer is like sort of the extra skin, that very initial point of the layering system. And from there, it was interesting to see folks who were highly active in their cycling. The last lady who was speaking, who was wearing very thin layers. It looked like she had a pair of tights on, a really tight-fitting jacket, all the way to some of the folks who, it seems like, maybe were a slower paced, I'm going to get there when I get there and enjoy the scenery sort of cycling, who are wearing much heavier layers. They need more insulation. And so I think where you go from a base layer is going to depend upon your level of aerobic activity that you're looking for, how much body heat are you going to be generated, and maybe also what sort of facilities you're headed towards. So I have the wonderful privilege of being able to show up at work and have a hot shower and a place to change and store my sneaky clothes. But maybe that's not true for everybody of where you happen to be heading. So you may have to take a slower bicycle ride with more insulating layers and try to manage your perspiration levels depending on where you're heading. So I brought some other layers here. We've got some really lightweight wind and waterproof layers. This is kind of a multi-sport layer that's stretchy, it's lightweight, and it's both wind and waterproof. It has some reflective highlights on it. We've got some heavier weight windproof layers with some underarm venting built into them to help to facilitate letting moisture and heat escape from your body. So you can go with something that's fairly lightweight. And I mentioned the word windproof a lot. And I was looking at the National Weather Service has some information about wind chill. And I was talking to these folks here about this a little bit before the presentation, that most of us maybe think about wind chill on windy days during our average lifetime activities, but cycling is really special in the fact that we get to create our own wind chill. So a nice ride to work, you get a 10-mile-per-hour wind chill the whole way, even on calm days. And if your bike ride to work has a really nice downhill section in it, you could get yourself a good 25-mile-per-hour wind chill going in no time at all. So wind chill is the ability of moving air to steal heat away from us. Our bodies are trying to sort of heat the space around us, heat the air around us, and that air is constantly being replaced. You have an endless supply of brand new cold air to heat. So I was looking at some of the charts, and at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, moving at like, I think it was a 3 mile per hour walking pace, you can drop yourself into sort of the frostbite zone in 10 minutes of exposure. So you put yourself onto a bicycle going 10 to 15 or even 20 miles per hour going down a hill, and you can get yourself into frostbite exposure ranges really quickly. So being able to block that wind can be pretty important. We also, in the shop, we stock some really high visibility layers, and I think there's one over there that's doing its fancy backlight blinky system. This jacket is it's built as an overcoat, and so it fits over lots of layers. It has a built-in flashing light and more reflective piping than our state troopers wear. So we have a state trooper client. We've started referring to this color as Wagenbach green, because when he comes in with his jacket, it's hard to stare at him. So this is a waterproof rain jacket. It's just really built around visibility and could go over lots of winter layers. So kind of the key to that layering system is not everything has to be bicycle specific. You can borrow from layering systems that you already have, that you're using for skiing, or that you use for hiking. But key elements are a really good base layer. You want to get that moisture away from your body. And then windproof layers are going to really make a difference in cycling. And especially in your hands and your head. So the one lady had the helmet cover, which is pretty dorky looking but fairly effective. We were talking about a good fitting helmet. We all choose our good fitting helmets when our hair is short and it's summertime. And then when you go to put things underneath it, it can be quite a hassle. So helmet liners for underneath your helmet. Pearl Izumi makes this little barrier cap. It's just got a windproof layer inside of it to cut down on the wind nip on your ears. I've kind of got a helmet that fits a little bit looser, and I've been able to fit an ice climate helmet liner under there that's got a little bit more fleece on top and windproof ear muffs. Or had a friend in Syracuse who wore a full-on ski helmet with the goggles and the whole deal. And I don't know, you'd have to ask somebody with a little more know-how about whether or not a helmet would protect your head in a bicycle accident the same way it would in a ski accident, or vice versa. But in terms of staying warm on really cold days, it's one of the, I guess, limited places, because you don't have a lot of space with your helmet to keep yourself warm. So I think being innovative and trying out new things is probably a good approach to that. So if you want to see some of the other stuff we have, you can stop by the table. We've got a variety of gloves that we carry, both for cycling specific as well as Nordic skiing. We have some shoe covers for anybody who's using a clipless pedal system for your winter cycling as well. Stuff like that. I think you also wanted me to talk just a little bit about bike maintenance stuff, or okay. Yeah, sure. So I think that the bike maintenance part of it could be pretty simple in terms of keeping your bike ready to go for the winter. The parts of the bike that are going to get beat on the hardest in the winter versus every other time of the year are the drivetrain parts, so your chain, and your derailleurs, and the cassette, mostly because of road salt and the nasty grime that they put down onto the roadways to keep us from sticking and slipping. And then the brakes is the other part of the system that's really going to be worse for wear in the winter than any other time of the year. For the same reason, you're getting a lot of that road grime If you're using a V-brake system or anything else that's clamping onto the rim, the potential for wearing down brake pads, wearing on the rims, getting rocks or other debris stuck in there is going to be something to check out. So if you're going to focus your energy in terms of bike maintenance and bike cleaning, wiping down your rims, just sort of wiping down the bike after a ride, and checking the wear on your brake pads so you know you have brakes for the next ride, and then either using a really high endurance, a really thick oil. We carry a commuting oil called Chain L, or frequently applying oil to your chain. When you do that, you always want to make sure to take off as much excess as you can. You really want the oil to be down into the links and not on the outside of the chain. It doesn't do a whole lot of good there. Or Peter brought a bike along that's got disc brakes. It's really awesome. You're clamping your brakes onto something that you don't necessarily care about and can be replaced, namely a rotor instead of your rims. And he's got a belt drive bicycle as well, which eliminates the metal moving parts of the bike, at least in terms of a chain and sprockets. So there's some other options out there for people who really, if you decide that this is a whole heck of a lot of fun, you want to do it again and again. But I was saying that my only real super winter bicycle maintenance experience was in Syracuse, New York, and I had access to college dormitories at the time. And so once every couple of weeks I'd put on a set of swim trunks and I'd roll my bicycle into the dormitory showers and I'd just take a shower with the bicycle and send all that road scuzz right down the drain. And I don't know if you want to do that at your own house. Maybe you should go to a neighbor's house or something like that. Or the Quality Inn, it's like $57 for a night. They might look at you strange when you come in with your swim trunks and your bicycle.
New set of rims, though.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, some sort of, and I guess you could put on like some sort of wetsuit and go to a car wash, but getting that grime off your bike could be as easy as just wiping it off kind of daily with a rag, because it is so hard to find. Yeah, not everybody has a shower you can use to wash your bike off with. Yeah, so. I hope that's a good start.
You want to handle that?
Okay, it's actually pretty late.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, so the basic idea we're trying to get across with the whole workshop is that while winter biking might seem a little crazy for various reasons, one of them might be just that it gets so cold. It really doesn't have to be. And with the right gear, it can be not only not an unpleasant experience, but quite a fun experience. I've certainly had that feeling myself. And I just wanted to add a little bit of things that I just brought that I use. So you mentioned using non-bike specific stuff. So I have these big, heavy ski gloves. So these are what I will use probably when it gets below 25 or 30, because my commute is only 2 miles, but I go up and down both ways. So probably get going at least 20 miles an hour, and the wind chill effect at that speed is really pretty significant. So these are really useful. And then you mentioned the booties. I have actually these commuting shoes are clipless pedals, so these are what those look like. So these just slide on with this Velcro enclosure, and that's totally windproof.
Maybe it's not easier than it really is.
And then it just
Really zoomy.
I know.
It just slides on.
It just slides right on.
Yeah,
They
it's
are.
all warmed up.
It's a good warm up. It's a very good warm up to get those things on. But what I'll probably do is just put them on once, and because these are pretty basic shoes, just leave them on, and then I'll just take the shoe off, and it'll be one unit. And then the balaclava that I got for when it gets really cold has, I don't know if you can hear me, has this built-in neoprene mask with holes for your nose and mouth, so that when it's cold, your breath doesn't condense and then freeze, and that just velcros the back. And so if you're bike commuting and doing errands and stuff, just a note on bank deposits with this unit. Not recommended.
Help! Please!
That's my.
That, of course, is for those of us who don't grow nice beards.
Well, man, the deposits wouldn't be so much trouble. But
That's right. It's the withdrawals.
Yeah.
It's the withdrawals. So now to talk more about the gear end of winter cycling, Peter White. And Peter White has come from New Hampshire tonight. He has a small custom shop specializing in wheel building, lighting systems, touring and commuting bikes, and equipment for tandem commuting and randoneering. And a lot of it is very, very good for winter biking. He brought a nice selection of stuff. He imports bicycle lights from Germany and France, where cycling is taking a bit more seriously here in the US, for now. We're hoping to change that. And he builds wheels for other bike shops and manufacturers. He's been in the bike business since 1975 and started Peter White Cycles in '88, and now runs a really great website since '97. Peter White Cycles, right, is the website. So it's really outstanding wealth of information. I would recommend checking it out. So here to talk more about the equipment end, Peter White. Thank you.
So this is sort of to me, the perfect winter bike. It sells for about $4,600. I'm not here to sell you a $4,000 bike, but just to show you some of the things that you might want to be thinking about for a bike. For starters, for winter, the studded tires. And if you're riding only on ice, then the studs can be steel. But most of the time you're riding on ice and asphalt. Steel studs will wear down because the asphalt is harder than the steel. So you want carbide studs. And I think most of the studded tires these days do use carbide studs. But when I started out with this 12 years ago, only one company was carbide. Everybody else was using steel. And that company was Nokian. So important thing about the studs is that they only have any function at all on ice. If you're riding on snow, the studs do nothing. If you're riding on clear pavement, the studs only make noise, but they do nothing else. It's only when it's ice, then the studs give you grip. If there's no ice, you might as well be using another, any other tire. And the studded tires are available in lots of different tread patterns. I've got a few over there to look at. There are some that are better for riding in city streets where you get plowed and don't develop icy ruts. So they have studs right just in the middle. And then this tire has studs in the middle and towards the side. So if you're riding on dirt roads that maybe don't get plowed, and they do develop icy ruts, and you get your wheel into a rut, without the studs you can't get out. Yeah, and you'll crash. But with the studs towards the side, you can climb out. So you need to think about the roads you're going to be riding on, and then pick the appropriate studded tire for your purposes. And they're available for, this is 26 inch, there's 700C, there's even 20 inch and 24 inch from Schwalbe, and lots of different configurations. Next thing for winter riding, disc brakes, as Andrew mentioned. With rim brakes, you're riding along, you've got salt on the road, you've got sand, everything's getting kicked up. That gets into the brake pads, and then that acts as an abrasive on the rim. The rims on better bikes are all aluminum, so it wears down the rims very quickly. By putting the brake down here, here's the caliper and the disc. you isolate the braking system from the wheel, from the rim. So all the wear is happening down here. Your wheels just go right through and there's no problem. I like hydraulic brakes for the same reason that no car company would be able to sell a car with cable-activated brakes. They're all hydraulic. They work best on bikes as well. So all weather, you just go. Next thing, lights. There's no batteries here. It's just the front hub is generating alternating current, goes to the headlight, and then goes to the taillight. They stay lit because they have capacitors inside. The capacitor takes a little charge. And then, so while you're stopped at the traffic light, or stop sign, you still have some light. Works in all temperature. At 10 below zero, it's exactly the same as at 90 degrees in August. The drivetrain. With a steel chain, they rust. And if you're riding in the winter, they pick up grit. They wear very quickly. This bike has a carbon belt from Gates, same company that makes belts for car engines and also for motorcycles. So this eliminates all of the issue of rust. Very reliable. They'll last many times the life of a normal chain. The rear hub, you see there's no derailleur here. But there are 14 speeds in the rear hub. It's from Germany, the company's roll-off. Many different configurations. You can take an existing bike, any of these bikes here, pretty much, could be converted to use a roll-off. This particular frame is designed from the ground up to work with it. So then there's about 20 different ways that they work. Fenders, of course. This particular bike has a rear rack that's integral with the frame.
Can you talk a little bit more about fenders and what we slide people?
Yeah.
Sure about that.
You want the fender to be wider than the tire, ideally. I like to have a good bit of clearance. I was rushing the assembly of this bike. So the way this is aligned here, this is a little too tight. I need to shorten this spacer. So do as I say, not as I do. This needs to be up a little bit. So you want enough clearance there so that anything getting in, you're less likely to get stuff stuck in there and jam up the front wheel. These fenders are plastic with an aluminum layer in the middle. They're made a German company, SKS. So it's a plastic aluminum sandwich. There are fenders on the market that are all aluminum, thicker than these. There are fenders that are all stainless steel. Those are the most durable. These have about the minimal amount of coverage that I like to have. Our better fenders actually come down a little bit further and have a mud flat. If you're riding with a group, you definitely want a mud flap on the back because the people behind you are going to get hammered. Some frames are not really well suited to fenders. They don't have mounting points for them. Racing bikes, every bike here obviously is well suited. You want little eyelets, usually down at the dropouts, to attach the fenders. I don't know. Each of five.
We'll get questions afterwards.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the dynamo lighting, there's lots of different configurations, different lights, different price ranges, and I have a few over there to look at. Oh, and I wanted to mention something about clothing, just to follow up on what other people said. In all of my winter cycling, I've never had a problem being too cold. I always have a problem being too hot. So I wear just a wool turtleneck and a poplin top with a hood, and then thick gloves, or when it's really cold, mittens, really thick boots, and something for my ears. And I find that just unzipping the zipper and pulling off the hood, if you're climbing a hill, take the hood off. Descending a hill, bring the hood forward, zip it up. And that's all I've ever needed. Now, and in January, my beard's thick.
Hoods over your helmet?
I don't wear a helmet. I'm one of those crazy people. What can I say? Snow is so soft. But yeah, so no one should be intimidated, I think, by the cold. Being 5 below zero, I've been out for up to an hour at a time. I have to stop when it's that cold, and get the wind chill off. But even then, it's a minor issue. Any other questions?
Something like the carbon chain. How much does the carbon chain run? I mean, are those kind of things really much more a belt?
The belt itself sells for about $60. That hub that it attaches to is $1,600. That's 14 internal speeds. Think of a Mercedes-Benz transmission shrunk down and put on your bike.
And the belt is different. It's not teeth like a normal steel crank.
Oh no, it's very different. And later on you'll come up and take a look.
Are there cheaper options as far as the hub?
Yeah. This particular hub has a really wide range of gears. Gears down painfully low. Shimano makes an 11-speed and an 8-speed internal hub. The 8-speed hub with a shifter and all ends up around $400.
Would that go with the belt drive?
Oh yeah. I could have built this bike up with either the 11 or the 8-speed. We stock all of them.
Peter, is it worth noting that because the belts are continuous,
Yeah, you need a special frame.
you need a special frame. So if people are thinking about this,
These two bolts, the chainstay can take out the bolts, and then you can pop the belt in there. But you cannot take any of these frames that aren't designed specifically for it. You can't convert to belt without major surgery.
right,
frame
as this gentleman said, a hacksaw. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Hacksaw and crazy glue.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. So that was great. We got a lot of great background information about the gear and clothing. As you see, this is my bike. It's a bit more of a primitive variety, but it's a really trusty bike. I've used this for several winters. The rims do wear down. One important thing that I do is I also have I have a wheel that's set aside just for my set of tire. So I don't have to change up the front wheel. I don't have to change up the tire onto another rim. It's got its own special rim that goes along with it. So I just put this on today just to bring it and show you guys, but I'm not riding my studded tires yet because there's no ice on the road, and they do make a lot of noise. But they're awesome. There's nothing like I've ridden out on the retreat meadows passing by skaters, and they're just like, what the heck was that? But as I said, most of the riding I do is really just around town. So a couple of things I just wanted to point out about my bike. And you'll notice I have a shock up front, which I found really, really useful. I've had this thing for somebody gave me this frame when I first moved to Brattleboro, and I've had the shock absorber waiting for a bike to put it on for I don't know, like 10 years, and finally it met its match. So I find the shock absorber really useful. Since I ride around my kid, a side view mirror, I'm finding it absolutely essential. As far as carrying stuff, panniers, really important. These waterproof panniers, a variety of companies that make them. This is made by Ortlieb. I've had this pannier set for maybe 12 years or so. It's still totally waterproof. Also, I have a trailer that I sometimes use has a waterproof bag. Often use a messenger bag, which is completely waterproof as well. Fits right up the shoulder. And one of the last things I just want to, my little special item that hopefully I have in here. As far as gloves, sometimes when you get freezing rain, you're just not going to, your hands are not going to stay dry. And most of the gloves that I've tried, just, you're going to get some water through them. So I sometimes use these neoprene diving gloves that really work well. And I had a delivery service, cargo delivery service in Berkeley, California that I ran for a number of years. It's a bicycle cargo delivery service. We use cargo bikes that can carry as much as 800 pounds of cargo. It's called Pedal Express. We all use these during the winter months. Of course, it doesn't get as cold there as it gets here, but these are great during those freezing rain. I love freezing rain, don't you? Those freezing rain days. So neoprene gloves are really, really handy. What we're going to do is we're going to show a couple more really interesting videos. I think you guys will find this fascinating. The first video that we showed was from Minnesota, and the next two, or one is, the first one will be from Edmonton, and the other one from Chicago. Yeah.
What do you do about your drivetrain in salt?
Oh, okay. So my bike is generally outside, so all that stuff freezes on it. I try and really lube everything I can. Before the onset of winter, I make sure everything is lubed up. The brakes, the whole drivetrain. And this, it's kind of a beater bike. It's a very old frame. So I know eventually it's going to, parts are going to start rusting away, but it's, I know Alice Sharp, she's had her bike for 10 years, and she's got a standard drivetrain. So she's found a lot of success with it. So during the winter, I'll take it in, every month, bring it inside the house, a waterproof mat below it, let everything drip off. I'll then re-lube everything so that it's ready for another month of wear and tear. And so far, I've been pretty lucky. It's really worked out. One time I did have a brake that froze up, and I was able to just repair that. One of the things that we're doing here, this is the first of hopefully a series of workshops, and those workshops will start in the spring. We'll have workshops on bicycle maintenance, real hands-on stuff. That's one of the things we're planning, we're looking at. We're going to have workshops on commuting, even like car-free trips that you can take, locally. So really, a lot of remedial, bicycle 101 stuff. This, of course, is a little bit more advanced. Starting, if you haven't really used a bike that much, starting in winter is a tough nut. But if you're going to do it, I say go for it. Let me see if there's anything else. I just really keep it. I try and clean it up off as soon as I get home. And I've never had a problem with the drivetrain freezing or anything like that. The chain does get rusty, and then I just keep on lubing it. And this chain has lasted 3 winters. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have access to a warm, dry place to store your bicycle, all the better.
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah.
In Syracuse, I did have my rear cassette body. The grease must have stiffened up and froze, because unlike your car, the bike doesn't come up to temperature every day because it's running off of a combustion engine, and it actually wouldn't catch. I had to bring it inside and that thing's soft. I don't know, but sitting outside at night, I imagine it got significantly cold. So that's the only time I've ever had anything on a bike freeze to the point where it didn't work.
All right, so we're going to watch a couple more videos. I think you'll find these really entertaining, also information.
Sorry.
cycle because it's a viable transportation alternative. Many people drive cars, others walk, other people use the bus. I like to cycle because it gets me in touch with my immediate surroundings. I'm not insulated from the weather the way we are in cars.
The real secret I'll have to show you is woolen underwear.
Oh, hi!
Volunteer here at the EBC. We basically fix bikes. Good bikes, bad bikes, new bikes, old bikes. We fix all kinds of bikes here.
There is room to maneuver here. And then bolt it on like that. That side, the left. We are now well protected as far as all this stuff in here. This is just going to catch it and knock it back down onto the road again where it should be.
Well, I think there's some very important generalities anytime you talk about winter activities, whether it be cycling or skidooing or anything like that. We know that one of the most important things when you're a warm-blooded animal is to keep warm-blooded.
Temperature is not a problem. I've cycled at like minus 40 or colder, and you just put on more and more clothes.
I'm really leery about cycling anything below minus 15.
Minus 35. There's almost no time when I won't fly.
This has been one of the toughest winters in quite some time, and yet it seems to us that there are more people commuting on their bicycles this winter than ever before, even on the worst days. Chicago Tonight producer Jay Shefsky set out to learn how and why they do it.
It's 7:30 a.m. on the lakefront bike path just south of McCormick Place. And it's 22 degrees. While most of us are complaining about the cold from inside our warm cars, a growing number of Chicagoans are meeting winter head-on and commuting on their bikes. Casey Klipsch is one. He's a software developer who's commuted in warmer months for years, but this is the first winter he's kept at it. Casey rides from the south side, through Jackson Park, along the lake, and into the Loop.
So why do you do this? I don't know, it's an extra like hour and a half each day of exercise that I get, and I get to be outside instead of stuck on a train.
And since he rides for exercise, Casey likes to ride fast. He says that's the biggest change in the winter.
You're slower. I mean, you need to be slower because even though they do a good job of clearing the path, you run into an icy patch here and there, you need to be clear of that.
Still, he says that even in the winter, biking takes him only 10 minutes longer than the train. And most of the time, he still rides fast enough that his co-workers can be very grateful that there's a shower in the office. This is Penelope McGovern. She's about to go to daycare. Her parents, Tim and Thelma, will ride the half-mile with her together. Then they'll each head off to work. One reason for this year-round family ritual, they say, is simple. It's better for the environment to keep their car off the road.
Well, we sort of have a rule to not use our car within a 2-mile radius. So we try to walk or bike as much as possible.
And living in Hyde Park, there are other practical considerations.
The parking situation right here in the neighborhood during the day is fairly miserable, and wind up walking further than would bike anyhow. But when gas hit $3 a gallon as well, it sort of confirmed our decision.
But riding in winter when the streets are dry is one thing. What about when there's new snow? This is Phil Day. He works at Channel 11. And he almost never misses a day of riding.
So Phil, it's snowing up here. What are you doing?
I've lost my mind. I don't know, after a while you just get used to it.
Phil rides about 3 miles each way, and most of it isn't in this quiet area where we caught up with him. It's over here on Lawrence Avenue. Still, he says he wouldn't give it up.
It's probably the best part of my day.
Why is that?
It's linear. All you think about is what's right in front of you. Wife, kids, house, none of that matters. And it's a few minutes where you just kind of enjoy being out here.
And Phil has been out here riding in the winter for about 10 years.
When I first started doing it on a bad day, I think, what are you doing out here? Do you see anybody else on a bicycle out here? But now I see them all the time.
This is Fallon Mihalik. She's one of the newcomers. But she's not only new to winter riding, she's new to Chicago.
I moved to Chicago about a year and a half ago from South Florida.
You just moved to Chicago from Florida?
It's my first winter riding in Chicago.
Fallon Mihalik is such an enthusiastic neophyte that she's only missed 2 days this winter. And one was because she had a cold. She works at the Chicagoland Bicycle Federation. Her boss is longtime bike activist Randy Neufeld. I asked him if he had any tips for new riders.
Well, if you're just getting started commuting on bicycle, I would suggest the springtime. If you've been riding a little while and you're ready to try it in the cold weather, put fenders on your bike because there's a lot of slush and slop on the street you don't want on your clothes.
And speaking of clothes,
Please.
A thermal flare, which is merino wool.
Silk long underwear from a thrift store.
And a sweater on underneath it.
and there was other advice like wider tires for the snow and slush and lots of lights for riding home in the dark. And almost everyone admitted to a shared experience.
You're going to fall every now and then.
Have you taken?
Oh, every year I go down at least once.
And while some riders advise using an old junk bike in the winter because of salt and other damage, Casey Klipsch is taking a different approach.
Now, I understand you're having a new bike made.
Yeah. You can commute on any bike you want, I've found. But kind of as a treat to myself, I am having a bike built specifically for my commute.
What's this bike going to cost you?
I'd rather not say. My wife might see this.
But no matter how much he spends on it, Casey's commute will probably still cost a lot less than yours. And whatever bicycle commuters are riding and wearing in winter, drivers like you and me are likely to see more and more of them. And my colleague Phil Day has a request.
Give us a break, okay? I got 3 kids at home. You know, I'm trying to make a living. Just let me live.
How old are your kids?
18.
You only have one.
I lied about that.
For Chicago Tonight, this is Jay Shesky.
If you'd like to start.
Well, that guy, little bit, little character, apparently. The part about, like, you fall once a year, I've never fallen. Apparently, he doesn't also have studded tires, so I'm sure he slipped on ice. But there is something about riding technique, and there's a lot of great stuff on, of course, the internet. You can find out all things about riding technique. A lot of it is common sense. Really thick, heavy snow. As we heard before, studded tires are not going to do anything for you. You'll be sloshing around a lot. And there's probably 2 or 3 days out of the year when it's just not practical to be out there. But our streets get cleared, and you start learning really how to navigate, the swerviness if there's a lot of slushy snow around. But I've found really little trouble really navigating the streets, and when I do, it just becomes a challenge. And sometimes I do get off. If there's a block that looks like it's really bad, I'll just walk my bike. We unfortunately we lost. One of our guest speakers was not able to make it. We were supposed to have Ruthie Woodring from Northampton, and she is one of the founders of Pedal People, which is a great bicycle delivery service. They use these enormous trailers. They have contracts with the city of Northampton to do all kinds of things from recycling, garbage, compost, you name it. And these people ride year-round with, I'm not kidding, 7-foot, 8-foot long bike trailers that are then stacked high with Rubbermaid containers, full of everything you could possibly imagine. Just imagine how heavy compost could be. Actually, I do have some photos. Let me just show just some photos, a little surprise photo of her too. So let me just show you that.
If you'd like to start biking in the winter, there are lots of resources out there, from websites to...
So this is just one image of what the trailers look like, loaded up. As I said, they ride year-round. They use a bike paths a lot, but they have to be on the Northampton streets. And Ruthie had one photo that she sent to me. It was about how to take care of her extremities. So you're going to see this photo. It's really interesting. She really took care of her extremities on the shot here. She said it was okay for me to show this.
Shouldn't you have some clothes on?
You would think so.
It's just a really thin base layer.
Yeah. All right. So next up, we do have a special guest who's taking Ruthie's place. We have Tim Whitney. Seems to be a theme going around here. We're all psychotherapists, but Tim is opening up a new practice in Brattleboro. He is a really great guy with a tremendous amount of experience in outdoor sports. You name it, skating, biking, etc. So I'll hand you over to Tim.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everybody. It's a cool event. Thanks for hosting. I just wanted to make a really brief, quick case for cycling. It's really easy to sort of see the environmental case, especially in this day and age, but just a little bit of the spiritual and mental case for it. As a psychotherapist, one of the most powerful tools I think we have today for people to help themselves feel better is exercise. More and more research is coming out that really shows that exercise is one of those things that will almost universally help whatever ails you, spiritually and mentally. Increasing blood flow to the brain, releasing a lot of healthy neurotransmitters, increasing your stamina, improving your heart rate, improving your health, all these things that are going to boost our mental health. And I think particularly in our Western society, where things become more and more insular, more and more automated, it's really hard sometimes to get enough exercise. I see it a lot in kids, particularly in the winter. This time of year, a lot of the kids I work with, the families I work with, everybody starts to kind of hunker down into the cave, and people start to get snappier, people get more depressed. And I really see biking as a great way to combine exercise with a really useful, fun activity.
Turn off the TV.
Yeah, it's hard to watch TV while you're riding a bike. It is hard. I don't know if it's been done. Probably with your iPhone you could, but so I just wanted to make a case for that biking in the winter, you think, okay, it's good for the environment, I'm getting my exercise, but there is something to be said. I love the Canadian video. You know, leave it to the Canadians to kind of have a little more holistic take on things. The intensity, the intense feelings of the cold on your face and the slush and, oh, my hands are a little bit numb and, oh, this is a little bit intense. Even that intensity, it's not just physical exercise, that interface with the natural world. And this is something that, you know, Dave and I and Phil have talked about, something we believe in. Contact with the earth is another thing that's really beneficial for our spiritual and mental well-being. And biking gives you that real close interface. And you can do a real brief experiment with yourself if you have a, 1 to 5 mile commute to work. Drive to work, have your cup of coffee or whatever, listen to NPR, driving to work, see how the first hour of work goes. Next day, bike to work. Put all your crap on, get there, it's freezing cold, why am I doing this? See how your first hour of work is. I can almost guarantee that that time that you bike to work, you're going to have more energy, you're going to be more alert, you're going to be in a better mood, and you're going to have a better outlook to the day.
And you have something to look forward to.
Yes. Yes, return home. Another thing, this is another thing of mine, research has been done with kids, finding that kids are much more available to learn in school when they have started a day with exercise. There's all kinds of studies with before school exercise programs, and really finding that the kids get their blood going, they get some stimulation, they get some core activation in their body. They're much more able to process new information, take new information in. And that's really true. I have a first grade daughter, and we live about a half a mile away from school. And we have a trail bike that hooks on behind. And we haven't missed a day. We haven't missed a day biking down, maybe 1 or 2, but she loves it. And, it's not long. She just kind of cruises along, but it's some wind in her face. It's a little bit of excitement, a little bit of adrenaline rush. We get to chat a little bit, look at the cars. We get to zoom ahead of the cars going into the school. And she really likes it, and I think it helps her in school. I think she intuitively senses that. So if you do have kids, a chance to engage them in a little bit of fresh air, exercise in the morning, I think is valuable. We have some educators here, and they may be able to corroborate that. So that's my brief message. Get out there. It's not just good for the earth, but it's good for your mind, good for your spirit, and good for your body.
I just wanted to add that there's an institute in Chicago that studies this, and specifically, particularly kids with ADHD, but also just children in general, and exposure to the natural world. And it's just amazing accumulation of research and evidence pointing out the vitality in kids that get out and exercise before school and that are exposed to particularly the natural world. And there are documented, cases of, or the documented evidence of how much that improves their ability to sustain attention and focus in school.
So while, can I answer that, while you probably wouldn't bring your kid to school, I also have a trailer bike set up, so my daughter is out in the elements in February. I doubt I'll be doing that. But one of the things we also want to communicate in this workshop is that even extending your riding season. So some people might not want or be able to ride 12 months a year, but so my daughter and I, we've been riding to school. She's on the back. Essentially, it's like a tandem race. She's 4, and the same principles of staying warm for us, layering stuff, apply obviously to kids. And I've been amazed. This is my daughter is not what I would call really hardy. She did not take to even the tag-along trailer I have there. At first, she didn't like that. She doesn't really like going fast. But we got on the bike, and she just loves it. We go in the rain. We've been out when it's been around 30. I think that's the lowest we got. And she loves it. So I get a balaclava. I have all the stuff that I have on. I just get for her in a size, in a kid size. She's perfectly warm and content, and I'm much more neurotic about it than she is, checking to see if she's okay. So I just want to emphasize, that kids really, really seem to like this. I know. Dave's little boy Eli just loves it too. And there is a mountain of research about how it prepares kids for learning. So a lot of the things we're talking about for us as adults certainly can be applicable to kids too.
Excellent. Yeah, perfect. Okay. All right, so we have a special guest too. Bill has brought his really special huge bike with him. It's made by Surly. It's called the Pugsley, and he can tell you all about it. Yeah.
And now for something completely different. Yeah, this is called a Pugsley, and it's got obviously really wide tires, and the whole frame is built around these wheels and tires, which allows you to ride not really in deep snow, but in packed conditions really pretty well. It was developed for the Iditarod bike race in Alaska, where they went on the same trails that the dogs go on. And a friend of mine who's a vet who goes up there said he's seen these guys coming in, icicles hanging off their beards, just totally covered, but this is what they're riding. And I got this mostly for sport, not for commuting. And what it's really good for is riding on snowmobile trails. And if you haven't done that, if you're a sport cyclist and like the adrenaline side of it, there is nothing better. It is the best riding you can find, I think. Just to be out in the middle of the woods in the winter, flying along on a bike on these trails, it's silent, it's just fantastic. I got it a couple of years ago, and last year the conditions were so good. I was out on it all the time. It's a little different. There are people in Keene, I understand, that ride these year-round. They're really good off-road bikes as well. The tires supply all the suspension. And people ask me, how much air do you run in the tires? And in the wintertime, I go down to 8 pounds in the back. which is what Surly says to do. And, you really drop it down, and the traction in the snow is amazing.
You don't need to put chains on it?
No.
How much do they cost?
This was about $1,600.
For the set?
For the whole thing. And there were some used parts in there. I had it built up by Westwell.
You have to get special rims.
Yeah, yeah. The rims and the tires are special. And the fork obviously is special. The rear triangle here is special. It's much wider. It's a lot of fun.
But the 1,600 included everything. That's the whole bike.
The bike.
Whole bike.
Yeah.
It's a motorcycle without an engine.
Yeah.
Essentially.
It's got an engine. What are you talking about?
Everything else is pretty standard mountain bike stuff. It's a Shimano drivetrain, and I run clipless pedals. Disc brakes seem to be really important with something like this, a hydraulic. There's disc brakes that have there's cable activated, but sometimes you go through water, and I've had cable brakes freeze on me. So these discs are really.
You have to cut one of those milk bottles in half.
Yeah.
One of those things like on film.
Right. Haven't had fenders yet.
I wonder if somebody makes fenders for a Pugsley, because it seems like it'd be a pretty specific fender.
I would think.
Oh, yeah.
Phil, when you're on the snowmobile trails and it's going to freeze, thaw, and frozen, do those tires do okay without studs?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, when it's really icy, you need studs. But for most conditions, the snowmobile trails get like concrete, and the traction is actually amazing. You can go a whole lot faster when the conditions are right. Ice is, ice is ice, and that's a little different story. But the wide tires have really extended the riding season, giving a lot more snowmobile trail time. And the snowmobilers love it. They do a double take when they see the big wheel. Always have interesting conversations.
Yeah.
Up on the Hawk Watch up in Putney.
I think a lot of the newer snowmobiles are four-stroke engines, so they run a lot cleaner.
Mm-hmm. Right.
20 years ago, you go skiing, cross-country skiing along it, it just falls.
I was never a snowmobile fan until I started riding on their trails. It just opened up a whole new, it's a nice symbiotic relationship we have with them.
Are there other people out there on Pugsleys?
I have never seen one.
Yeah.
No. I would like to. And the other thing is you can ride a regular mountain bike on snowmobile trails a lot of the time. This gives you obviously more traction and prevents you from sinking, from digging into the crust. But before I got this, I rode a regular mountain bike a lot. Just took a little air out of the tires, and it's great. Highly recommend. I love it.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, Bill. So the next video has a little something to do with an event that one of us is going to be planning. I'll tell you about that in a second, but first let's show the video. And it's, that one, that's right. I'll turn up the light. So this is a little bit more of the extreme winter biking.
February. And it's a collection of winter cyclists and enthusiasts who want to come out and watch and race on slick ice circuits.
How do you start off? It's just like riding a bike. Yeah, I think we'll be here for the fun and the camaraderie of it. I don't know about we're aiming to finish and not go to the hospital tonight.
Yeah, tell me about some of the gear you guys got here. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's just they're just ice-studded tires. I actually made this one today. I called it all lost and got some self-tapping steel frames. It takes a lot of time. We're supposed to put a strip on the inside so the screws don't pull through and puncture the tube.
Yeah, I've been watching and volunteering at the race for about 3 or 4 years now, and I've always been really afraid of riding on ice. I think it's so excited to take care of that.
Hand it over to someone else. Go to my buddy's house and a nice cool beer.
What kind of advantage does that bike
I was going to say you got dates, but actually it doesn't really help.
I've been worried since last year. Because I was a grand racer.
So that is out of the city of Toronto. The city of Toronto actually has a winter biking program. So they support all kinds of brochures, workshops, you name it. It's estimated there are about 3,000, 4,000 year-round riders, commuters in Toronto. And apparently now all the bike spaces are just taken up, parking spaces just like they are during the springtime and summertime. So the population of winter cycling is just skyrocketing, partially because the city is so involved in it. Minneapolis too. It's said like 6,000, 7,000 people doing that, commuting year-round. Absolutely amazing. But we're actually one of our friends here is going to try to put together what we call an ice crit. I guess it's going to be out on the Retreat Meadows.
No, actually more than just an ice crit.
So this is Paul Rodrigue, another psychotherapist.
So I'm with the local chapter of the New England Mountain Bike Association, and right now we're making plans to hold an ice race on the Meadows as part of the Winter Carnival. So we've already met with them once, and keeping my fingers crossed. So don't go out and buy your studded tires just yet. Set some money aside, and hopefully we'll be getting out some advertising soon. We'll probably coordinate with you, Diane, through the West Hill shop and just try to get the word out as much as we can, the local bike shops. But it would be in February on the Winter Carnival, and I'm hoping for a weekend slot, maybe a Saturday morning. I've been talking to Phil and Dave a little bit about different types of racing. So one idea is a crit. There's a whole different bunch of different types of races that are available, relays and such. The one that I'm most interested in is sort of a motocross style where we could have some bank turns and some jumps and things like that. So stay tuned. We'll be in touch, and hopefully we'll be hearing about a race happening in February.
Awesome. Great. So just to wrap it up, we're not presenting like this is not the silver bullet for transportation needs riding during the winter, but if you replace car trips, and that's what it's all about, just using it to replace car trips, using it to really get yourself outdoors, to avoid winter body syndrome or nature deficit disorder, or any of those other ailments that happen during the winter. And this is really connected to a lot of other concerns, like the whole local food movement, energy conservation, and so this is all about local using local energies, as local as you can get. And it's kind of solar because we're eating food that, of course, was transformed into food by the sun. So in a way, it is solar power. And for us, it's really about being fun. It's about alive, being really vital, and finding radical amazement. That's one of the things that we all find with any kind of riding we do, but definitely with winter riding. And some of the last thoughts I have is just part of the vision of this new bike group that's getting started, basically Paul, Phil, and I right now, is to have all kinds of workshops to really kind of have a vision for a real bicycle community, create a bicycle community that is a functional bicycle community, uses bikes for utilitarian purposes, for getting from here to there, and really create a community out of that, like in a lot of other places. In Portland, Berkeley, where I was living, in San Francisco, very, very strong, powerful communities of people that are riding bikes. And part of the reason for building community is that the next step could be, a real power base to start changing some of the infrastructure. We're essentially living with still like a 1950s infrastructure. It's only going to change if we decide to change too. So that's one of the things we're promoting. And it's for us and for Phil and I, definitely it's about the kids. We're really getting our kids out on the bikes, and that's part of the work that we want to do is really work with kids, getting them out on bikes, and really training the next generation to be a lot more independent, a lot stronger, and a lot more empowered. So I want to just thank everybody for coming, and we need to also thank the Post Oil Solutions and also Children and Parents Project. Yeah, for sponsoring the event. I hope everybody signed up on the sign-up sheet. We also are taking donations because of the expense of putting this on and having to rent the River Garden for this. And Phil, do you have any last thoughts?
No, you nailed it.
I nailed it?
You got it.
Will there be a cold day of the year ride?
Cold day of the year, I think Phil was talking about that.
I was thinking perhaps a New Year's Day ride.
Yeah.
Coldest day of the year ride, New Year's Day ride, something like that where we all bundle up and go for I don't know, 10-mile ride or something. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. We'll try to post that through the various bike shops and maybe put up a flyer. So look for that. Yeah, that would be fun.
Will there be news like that going out if we put our email addresses on the sign up? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so you definitely want to sign up if you want to find out about those events. And so this last portion, if you all want to come and talk to any one of us, please do. I'm going to be showing just some slides of winter biking from around the country and elsewhere. So you might want to check those out. But there's a lot of great products here and a lot of good things to check out. Yeah. Oh, BCTV, yes. Frederick, thanks so much for being there.
Sure.
So natural, I'm just always on television, I didn't even think about that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Hey, what would be the chance of the local bicycle dealers, getting together and maybe offering a rental winter where you can rent a bike for like a couple days and get them on the road and get people with the get the feel of it.
Yeah. Well, we have some local bike people here. It's Barb right over our bike, so you can ask her.
I know Barb. I've been hassling her for years.
All right. Thanks so much for coming.